Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today something actually really interesting is happening, and so I wanted to create a video to go over this just because this price point that we're hitting at for Bitcoin actually right now is a really key level that it'll be really interesting to see kind of how Bitcoin reacts to kind of where we're at in the market. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive right in and kind of check this out a little bit further. So starting out, what we can see is a pretty mixed day in the market, but I would say definitely, much stronger green than what we're seeing red. So I would say, kind of overall up day in the market, but it's kind of not up everywhere like we've seen at least some days in the past. There are still kind of some mixed performances in here. We can see, Radium, Ape down, kind of they're the leaders. Beam another one here. Sui's been one. It's been kind of lagging over the past several weeks. Well, maybe like a couple weeks. Obviously, it has done very well. We can see, up very high this year, even still positive on the month. So, even though it's been kind of lagging over the past, week or so, it still has done quite well for the month overall. So, not a whole lot to be concerned of there. We can see Doge has kind of moved up a decent chunk. Rune, BSV, those are kind of the ones leading the market here. Jasmy one, we're starting to see some movement. Both ICP and Jasmy, we hadn't really seen kind of any volume or traction at all. So it's nice to see Jasmy up in the crypto bubbles, which is good. So, but the thing I want to talk about today specifically is Bitcoin, because as probably a lot of you are kind of on the same page of this thinking, really the only thing that matters right now is Bitcoin. A lot of us are waiting to see kind of what happens with Bitcoin. As we can see here in the chart, we have broken above this descending channel. However, we have not broken all-time highs yet. All-time highs we do see up here at the 73,670 range-ish. What we can see here on the shorter time frame, though, is we are hitting up into the kind of more recent highs before we kind of continued in this downward channel. So obviously, the 70,000 range, massively important range. We actually can see that we did wick up just above 70,000, but we have come back down. We're sitting kind of right here at this range. If you ask me, this is kind of to be expected. This 70,000 range, not only is it a even round number, usually price struggles whenever there's kind of like a psychological barrier. I think 70,000 definitely hits that, or it kind of fits that description of being a psychological barrier. Kind of the biggest one that I think we all can have in mind is like, 100,000. I think $100,000 is going to be a massive psychological barrier for Bitcoin. So I think, 70,000 is kind of just a smaller version of that. We can see it as kind of pulling back even as we speak. This is not super surprising, right? I think we're going to have a massive sell wall here at 70,000, just because of all of the previous price action that we've seen. If we go over here looking at the liquidation heat map, we can see that there are massive sell walls up here at the top. These are all, this is going to essentially prove to be a massive zone of liquidity, because whenever you see this much leverage sitting in this range, it's going to be kind of a huge wall for us to get through. And also just because this is a psychological barrier. If we look kind of even further out, we can kind of see, down here at kind of at the bottom of this descending channel, and then up here at the top of this descending channel. This is kind of like anything else in here. Price will move relatively comfortably, but kind of as we get towards the top, even right here, we can see the 70,000 range. We've got a lot. And then if we go up in here, up at the 72.5, 73,000 range, where we start to get close to all-time highs, this is where it gets even more and more dramatic, which I think makes sense. Going back to the chart, we can see, it would not surprise me at all if we get rejected here. Again, kind of continuing to kind of bounce around in this area, kind of leading up to the election, which is in 8 days now, 9 days. So, this is something that I don't think is too unexpected. I think we'll probably continue to bounce around in this range. If we do break through 70,000, I would imagine we probably see a pretty quick move up to the 71.5, maybe even 72,000 range. The next really major point of resistance is going to be kind of right here at the 72,000 range. And then after that, we're going to see, all-time highs at the 73,760. That's kind of once we clear 7360, I think we're going to see a really massive move to the upside. I'm imagining, again, not to get political on the channel, and I try to kind of stay out of the politics generally, but as far as Bitcoin's price action is concerned, I do think that a lot of people are, I think, kind of hoping for a Trump win in the US election. And if that was to happen, then I actually think we'll probably see crypto move fairly dramatically and pretty quickly to the upside. It could be something where, we kind of teleport up to like 80, 85, 90,000 range. There's so much like pro crypto support and sentiment for the former president that if he does get elected, I do think there's going to be a ton of optimism and things like that within the overall crypto space. If that does happen, though, I'm always kind of the contrarian, right? And it's like, if people want Trump to get elected, at least from within the crypto space, and he gets elected, does that, like, and everybody thinks that's going to be a good thing for crypto, does that mean that crypto is going to go up? Or is that kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event, right? This is something that I think is really, really hard to say, and it's almost not possible to tell, right? And so I think what we can tell is there's just a lot of people not trading kind of leading up into this election. We can see volume, even though only so slightly, volume has kind of trended down, particularly leading up to the election here. Even kind of short term, we have seen, some pretty decent volume days on kind of the ups and the downs, but overall, the volume has kind of trended downward a little bit leading up to the election. And I do think that kind of makes sense. People are just kind of watching and waiting. We are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. And so, there's not going to be a whole lot of movement that I think is going to happen, at least here in the short term. So that's kind of where I'm seeing it right now. If you are interested in trading on Margex, like I said, maybe not the best time to trade, but if you at least want to, get your account created and funded and ready for, potentially when the fireworks start, if we see kind of a dramatic move up here, you can feel free to check out Margex. There is a link in my description. There's no KYC or VPN required, so if you want to do that. Also, they actually are doing a betting odds for Kamala versus Trump. So if you happen to be certain that Trump's going to win, then maybe putting a little bit of money on him right now might not be a bad deal. I think when I checked earlier today, you can see it's right up here. When I checked earlier today, I think if you were to put a wager on Trump, I think it was going to be like a 60% return if he were to win. So you put in $10, you get 16 back. And then if you were to bet on Kamala, I think it was 130 or 140. So you put in 10, you get 13 or 23 or 24 back. So anyway, that's kind of how things are looking overall in the market. If you are interested in Margex, just feel free to check out the link. There is a couple other things that I want to check out today. The first one we can see, and a lot of this is related to volume and open interest and kind of what we're seeing so far, because what we can see within the market, it is obviously kind of taking a run up at these kind of resistance levels. These are going to be massive resistance levels to break, and I do think something like an election, a positive election result probably would break those, but I don't really think anything before that is going to happen. So what we can see though on the 24-hour, kind of what we can see on the crypto derivatives visual screener is kind of more mixed than what I would have expected, at least from what Bitcoin's price is showing. Definitely still kind of more biased towards closing shorts and entering longs, but still a definite like chunk of longs closing and shorts entering here in the market. If we look at the short term, we can see it's very, very biased towards closing shorts and entering longs, but still on the longer time frames, it does become a little bit more kind of mixed. I guess everything except the 24-hour is showing pretty much like all green only. Also, what we can see is when we're looking at the Bitcoin liquidation map, again, this has been a mainstay on the channel. We've used it to, I would say, very effective use, particularly trading leverage on Margex. But what we have seen is that this has almost always been accurate in terms of predicting the next price move. What we can see is, there's basically no leverage in this range because it's just gapped to the upside. And so this has all essentially been short leverage that has been liquidated. What we can see though now is for the total Bitcoin exchange liquidations, there is definitely kind of a move to the downside potentially in the future. Kind of hitting like 67,700-ish range would liquidate almost $2 billion worth of leverage. I do think, we could potentially see a flash crash. That is only $2,000 to the downside. So something that is very much possible. I do think if we were to ever see some sort of massive move to the upside, I would imagine we'd almost see some sort of move to the downside, wipe all the leverage before we came right back up. That's kind of what my expectation. But again, I don't know the future. I can't tell the future. So not financial advice. This is just kind of my opinion based on what I'm seeing. If we do look at the liquidation map, everything is basically predicting a move to the downside, at least, in the relatively short term. I think at this point, from a fundamental perspective, if we look at the chart, Bitcoin's going up, and it's almost certain to be going up relatively soon, potentially, with news on the election. But at least right now, you can see it's been very volatile. There's really been no given direction. I mean, obviously we are in a general uptrend, but especially over the past like week to 10 days, it's been very volatile. There has not been really kind of a clear direction of movement. And this obviously has been just kind of wiping out tons of shorts. I mean, you can see down, up, like this is all just clearing leverage all the way through, right? And so that's something to just always keep an eye on, is as you're seeing these movements, like be careful, don't get cleared out, because this is a very easy way to do so. I do think we will see that pull back, but even though like I have not been trading a lot recently, because especially when I'm trading on higher leverage, yes, we may see a move directionally to this downside, but how far up are we going to go before we move down? And especially if you're trading higher leverage, like, even if you're directionally correct, you could get liquidated long before you actually see your trade play out. So that's kind of why I've been taking it a little bit easy, is particularly leading up to the election, is just, I mean, if we were trading on hard mode before, like we're trading on like difficulty extreme or legendary at this point, at least in my opinion. So, I know there's definitely, like, there's always money to be made in the market, right? But I'm usually trying to stick around and trade when the money is this easy to be made. And what we can see overall here is the number of, or the amount of leverage to be liquidated is actually lower if we look on the short-term time frames. We can see up here, only 3.5 billion. I think this is usually around 4 to 5, so the volume's a little bit lower here. On the midterm, we can see about 6. Usually this is more like 8 or 9, I want to say, but we can see on the 30-day this is actually, this is 11.5. This is, I would say, consistently about a little bit larger than what we've seen in the past. So on the 30-day, I mean, there's still definitely a ton of volume to the downside, but at least in the short term, we haven't seen, kind of as big of liquidation walls as we've seen in the past. And I think a lot of this is just because people are getting crushed out there, right? Like the movements one way and the other is just chopping up liquidations and liquidity both directions. And so that's just something to keep an eye on. The last thing I want to point out here is open interest and volume. What we can see is this is total open interest and volume, and this is just Bitcoin's open interest and volume. And so what we can see right now, we are sitting like relatively close. We actually might even be at, we're pretty close to like previous all-time highs. We are down from this recent all-time high that we made, but we're very much so on Bitcoin sitting at all-time highs, very close to at least. Volume has been relatively stable. Like I said, a very slight dip over the past couple of days leading up to the election, but Bitcoin open interest and volume still very much here. There's a lot of eyes on it. And so I do think that means that there is a level of money and capital within the markets that when Bitcoin starts to move, I think we could see a pretty crazy move to the upside. And so, obviously that remains to be seen. What we can see in the overall crypto market is we are not hitting kind of like the previous all-time highs that we were seeing here. Previous all-time highs being close to 80 billion. Right now we're sitting right at about 70 billion. So about 10 billion off of kind of previous all-time highs. This again does make kind of some sense. We are sitting in Bitcoin season. Alts really have not been performing particularly well. The alts that have been performing well, I would say, are kind of limited strictly to meme coins. Everything else is just kind of wait and see. I guess we could throw in Solana. Solana has done pretty well recently as well. So if we want to look at Solana, we can see that Solana has done actually, really quite well, particularly over the past week or so. It moved kind of from a low of about, just shy of 150, and now we're sitting up at, almost 180. So definitely a pretty decent move to the upside. But again, we're seeing the volatility here. We saw a massive pullback down to, below 160 and then, all the way back up. So again, Solana not without volatility as well. But things are looking really, really nice for Solana as well. I do think as we start to see Bitcoin break its all-time highs, it would not surprise me if we see Solana, break its all-time highs and maybe see runs to $300, $400, $500. Solana has been and continues to look like it will be the one that kind of leads the market as far as alts are concerned. Ethereum has kind of been, lagging. And so we'll skip over them today. Again, and that's mainly just because the market continues to be all about Bitcoin, maybe with Solana as an asterisk on the side. But, Bitcoin is really the one to watch. We need to be seeing, a consistent break and close above 70. And then after that, 72 and then 73.5. So anyway, that's kind of what things are looking like today. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe. It really, really does help me out. Get me pushed further into the YouTube algorithm so more people can view my channel and whatnot. So also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. I do try to read and respond to all of my comments. So if you have anything that you want me to read or see, or you have a question, anything like that, that would be the best way to do so. Also, if you are interested in trading, my Margex link is in the description below as well. So if that's something that you want to check out, please feel free. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.